which there were a lot of folks from the local NAMI chapter that were involved in stakeholder meetings and other ways of giving feedback. So it really is full circle to be here today to talk with all of y'all. We've met with other folks at NAMI. We met with the Warm Line team actually several months ago to go over like the implementation of the Navigator program. And so I'm really excited that we get to be with this group and share a little bit more, because as was noted, it opened its doors, or it's kind of like opened the phones, I suppose, just a few months ago. So what's exciting about today is we have a little bit of information to share about how it's been going, along with what the background is. So most presentations we were doing in the beginning was all about the background, but we get to talk today about how it's been going. So today we're just going to tell you a little bit about the program, the background, how it fits within the Behavioral Health Services Department and our county's response to, providing support to community members in Santa Clara County, which includes like the whole phone tree of behavioral health, which probably some of you are familiar with. We'll talk about how the implementation's been going, and then time for questions at the end. And we did have some news crew come to the office when we first opened. And so there's a really cool video that was done. And, it's like when you see something like in action, it really brings it to life. So hopefully we can get the video to work. And if we can't at the end, then we can just send y'all a link. So it's kind of like a little behind the scenes tour. All right. So what is the Behavioral Health Navigator program? So it was actually a request by Supervisor Simidian, one of the 5 county supervisors, because he'd had constituents and community members just often saying that they found the behavioral health services in Santa Clara County to be confusing, weren't sure how to access services, didn't know who to go to for what, and what the process would look like. It was sort of the opposite of the no wrong door experience, right? That we so desperately want folks to feel. And so the idea was that there would be a team of folks whose entire purpose was dedicated to giving individualized resource navigation. So exactly what the person's situation, whomever is approaching this team of navigators, whatever their situation is, whatever, where they are, what they've already tried, what they've got going on in life, finding out exactly what their scenario is, and then matching resources and information and warm handoffs and connections to what they need, rather than, sort of like them having to try to like call a bunch of places themselves, or, a lot of times when folks give out resources, it's sort of like, oh, here's a list, or, oh, just call this number. We're really trying to take it a little bit further, explain things for folks, call with them if they need, or like call over to the place and, kind of do that warm handoff so they don't feel totally, abandoned in the process. Another key part is that, being part of the behavioral health system, the team is really well acquainted with all of the other county services, because at the end of the day, behavioral health is not just, behavioral health support is not, a list of services in a tiny little box, right? It really means, wellness in every kind of realm of your life, right? So when people are calling and asking for support, they're not just asking, how do I get a therapist, right? They're asking about their physical health too, their housing, support, support for like other family members, or legal navigation, not necessarily like advice, but right, like resources for navigating situations, everything you can think of. And that's all related to like our health and wellness, right? So really that holistic view and coordinating across all the county systems and all the contracted providers and all the community-based organizations to get people the right information. So it kind of, if we take a step back to a year ago, we have for quite a while now seen that there have been folks calling different parts of the behavioral health department for years asking questions about resources, right? And of course, the folks answering the calls were doing their best to provide information. It's just that they also had dedicated other roles. So it was sort of like creating a bit of like an unideal situation for the staff, because they're juggling, trying to get people referred to treatment, trying to address crisis calls. And it wasn't the best for the caller or whomever that, however the community member was, presenting with questions, because they're not getting like that dedicated assistance, right? And so, as you can see, the behavioral health call center is sort of the term that's traditionally that we've used to talk about the team that makes referrals to treatment services for Medi-Cal beneficiaries. There's some nuances there, and there's a lot more to it, but the very like short definition would be, for Medi-Cal beneficiaries, we as the behavioral health department are responsible for making sure that they get access to behavioral health treatment. That's mental health and substance use treatment services, and all the range that means. We also run, the county also runs the suicide and crisis hotline. Now, the crisis and suicide prevention lifeline is sort of the new branding. And they have a team of folks, largely a bunch of volunteers, as well as paid folks that answer calls 24/7, right? And so both of those teams, as you can see, ranging between like 15 to 30% of the calls that they were getting were actually about resources, not specifically about getting a referral or being like really in crisis. And so our initial goal was immediately to make sure that those calls got filtered to a team of navigators that could best support them, as well as then offer these resource and navigation services, more broadly, market them so people know that there is a team that can support. And so this is kind of a little snapshot of what our flyer looks like, and we will make sure y'all have it. This is what we have since July, and really trying to promote that you can call this number, and we're going to talk about the number in a second. You can email the team, or you could find folks in specific programs currently existing in Santa Clara County that can offer you that personalized assistance, guidance, really like in-depth understanding of resources. Again, this is a peer-run program, so the navigators are peer support workers, and so they do have experience supporting themselves, their loved ones, in accessing behavioral health resources, and really come to the work with so much compassion, patience. A lot of the interactions with folks seeking information, it's just as much like the how the connection is made as the what, right? It's not just the information that's provided, it's feeling like the person you're talking to on the other line like really cares. And I think that you all really understand that, because that's largely the experience on the warm line too, right? So we're really all about folks feeling safe and supported when they talk to us. And so, as you'll see, the flyers are in English as well as Spanish and Vietnamese. It's very important to us that we're getting information out to a larger audience than, just English-speaking folks. I think that we do plan to continue to expand language capacity as much as possible as we have opportunities for more staffing. And of course, anyone that calls in any language, we would access, interpreter services in order to make sure that they're able to communicate in the language they're most comfortable. But for now, flyers in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And I am going to pass it over to Rosa, who is going to talk about what does it look like day to day, where does it fit, and just to kind of clarify. So I as was noted, am a manager in our access division, which has a lot of services. And I helped, get the program started and planned. But really, Rosa is the right in the trenches manager, supporting the team day in and day out. And so is going to be able to really give y'all a lot of great info about how it's been going. So take it away.
All right. Thank you, Alicia, for that introduction there. And glad that everyone was able to join us tonight. There's a question in the chat, and the question is this Medi-Cal only? I am assuming Navigator does not provide any other help. And the navigation services, they're not Medi-Cal only. However, if you're wanting a mental health referral or there's substance use services, it is Medi-Cal only. When we receive a call regarding services and individuals, especially if they have private insurance, we take down that information, the private insurance that they have, and we try and help and navigate them utilizing any additional resources that we might have. For example, if it's a county employee calling and requesting services, we are able to get them connected. We give them the phone number for their provider and tell them they can totally reach out to the insurance and get a list of providers, or we can also guide them and assist them with getting maybe a psychologist from psychologytoday.com. We actually have helped individuals with navigating the actual site where they might call us and they'll say, well, I don't have a computer, I don't have access to that. How else can you help me? We've given them names and phone numbers directly from that site where they can write down the information and then call and ask if they're accepting new patients. So I hope that answers your question, that with the navigation services, it's not just for Medi-Cal. You can definitely call us to find out what resources are out there. And we get calls for everything. So just as the flyer mentioned that there is our behavioral health phone number, the 1-800-704-0900. It is a tree of options, and I'll go through the options with us being option 4. But the first option 1, is the 988, which is the new suicide and crisis prevention lifeline. When someone connects with that number, they will get connected with like the mobile response and stabilization team. They can also get connected with the mobile crisis response team. IHOT, which is the in-home outreach team, which is kind of like the Laura's Law that was implemented. And then a new program that started in November is the Trusted Response Urgent Support Team. Those are all the mobile crisis response teams that we have when you access that option 1. They do have a lot of the suicide and crisis prevention individuals. There are a lot of volunteers as well as clinicians that are available 24/7 to respond to those calls. And that same phone tree under option 2, that's where individuals are able to call to get referrals for whether it be mental health or substance use treatment services. Usually what happens when that option is selected, they will participate in a screening, and it's about anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes where they get a referral and they are told where they have to reach out to in order to get that first appointment. Our option 3 is the assisted outpatient treatment services. And like I mentioned, it came about out of Laura's Law, which is trying to get individuals that are needing services be able to obtain those mandated services without having to get the individual conserved. So instead of going through that lengthy process, an individual, a family member, a loved one, a professional provider can request the courts for mandated treatment. And then there's us, option 4, where if you select that option, you'll get one of our peer navigators to provide resources, any information, whether it be medical. Sometimes we have individuals calling, I have a toothache and I don't know where I can go for that. This is my address. And we actually look up for dentists in that area. And we say, you can try calling this individual and see if they're taking in new patients. Our current 3 staff members are Gabriela Juarez, Elizabeth Orozco, and Rosalinda Chavez. And then option 5 is our grievances and appeals option, where we do get individuals wanting to make a grievance, and we're directing them towards that line. Next slide. All right. And then with that being said, now we'll go right directly into that navigation access map, which is the option 5. So when the navigator receives a call, they're going to assess that individual, and they're asking basically like what is it that we can do to help you? This is what we provide. We'll also give them a chance to get back to us and tell us what is it that the needs are. But we do immediately let them know that we offer information and resources. We have, we provide, there's in-person services with some of our other centers. We provide linkage, if they're wanting mental health services, we're able to do a warm handoff and send it to the call center. If they're actually in a crisis, we're also able to get them connected right away to the crisis center, the 988 option. And then we'll also have that ability to link them back to the private insurance. All right, so the first 2 months during our services, we handled about 1,525 calls, and we were able to get all those calls answered in a matter of 1 minute. So no one had to wait for more than a minute on the phone lines, which is awesome. We've learned that our busiest times to call are between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., where we've gotten about 44% of the calls during that time. When we were able to track the languages that we were able to serve during this time period, we have 199 Spanish calls, 30 Vietnamese, 3 Cantonese, 3 Mandarin, 1 Tagalog, and 2 other non-English speaking languages. We're also asking individuals when they call us, what is it that the need is? And we've learned that 52% of those calling were requesting mental health services, maybe not an actual referral, but just wanting to know where else they can get those services from. 13% of those calls were for substance use treatment services. 51% were individuals calling in for resources or information. About 1% for grievances. And then out of all of our calls, about 20 calls were urgent, which required an escalation to 988. We have received about more than 20 emails asking for support with the navigation services. All right, and then our future plans. These are some of the exciting things that are coming our way. We are hoping to get 3 additional peer navigator codes with physical presence at various service locations throughout the county. So like South County, Central, and North County. And then we're also going to be rolling out navigator program services at additional existing peer programs now. Like we have Esperanza, which is located in South County, and they're 5 days a week. They're there, they're functioning. So it's really good to be able to have that service there available for our community members. We'll also have the Downtown Youth Wellness Center, which is in Central County, and we're exploring options for North County. Another exciting thing that we're doing is we're working on creating a navigator app so that for individuals that are not able to call us, and because we love using our phones nowadays, that we actually have an app where they can get resources and even chat with an individual, a navigator online. So we're hoping that we can roll that out. And we're also creating a customer satisfaction survey via Qualtrics so that we can make improvements where improvement is needed. All right, and you can feel free to contact us. We have an email address. It's also part of our flyer that we're going to make sure that you receive. And our phone number, again, we're Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. With the tree being 1-800-704-0900, option number 4. And then our navigator email. And then we also have the Zephyr Self-Help Center located on East Santa Clara Street. They're open Mondays 1 to 4, and then Thursday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. They actually have a lot of amazing groups there. They have peer support workers that are present, that you can go in, you can get one-on-one services, have someone right there, right with you, helping you navigate the systems. And then just, I'm sorry, reading something in the email, in the chat. And then, yeah, so one-on-ones, groups, it's very, very exciting. You have any additional questions, you can always email us to get that information. I just want to confirm the email address on here, bhnavigator@hhs.scc.gov.org. Okay, and then we have a urgent care center. So if anyone is ever wanting to come in, ever go directly to crisis and ask for any information that is needed, then they are able to get services right there, right at that time that there's a crisis going on. We have flyers there available for individuals that they can feel free to either ask for it or they will receive one on their way out.
And sorry, what I was trying to put in the chat, but there we go. I didn't have the option to send to everyone because I realized that the email address has one letter off. So we will fix that. And also I just put it in the chat. So it's SCC Gov instead of SSC Gov. So sorry about that. But the flyer has it too, as I said.
Good catch.
I know we've used this presentation like 40 something times. I just noticed. I mean, we did add some stuff for y'all actually, literally like just a few hours ago, but still didn't catch that email. Could we try before we go into questions, could we try the video really quick and see if it will work?
Definitely, let's try that.
Yeah, let's try it because I did do something in the settings and I don't know whether it's applied or whether it's still going to work because I tried to do it and it still doesn't show me the share sound symbol. So I don't know if it'll show you. It's
not coming up. To share, yeah, on share the sound. So maybe we can, I don't know, Alicia, do you think we should just answer some of the questions and then see, continue to play around with it?
I think
definitely.
If the video is not being able to play, we can even share the link with everyone, then they can just watch it at their own time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I just put the link in the chat. So it's a super quick video. It's like I said, it was just like being on the news. It was like the news kind of doing a little tour. So there is another question. So what do you tell people who are looking for supported housing? That's such a big problem in this valley. What resource information do you have for them with this? I'll just say a few things and then Rosa, you can piggyback because I think you probably have a lot to share too. I think what is important to know about the Navigator program is we don't have any new specific dedicated resources. We are a repository. We're sort of like the go-to for information about what exists. So I say that because what you're saying is so valid that we've been in a housing crisis in our area for a long time and it is so bad and there aren't enough resources. With that being said, what we can do and what we do is let folks know exactly what's out there, who to go to for what, whether that is emergency shelter, right? Like they have their own consolidated call center now, the Here For You call center, which the team has met with, which was really helpful. But we don't have any new resources that were created, that we are the specific pathway for. So just to clarify that, but Rosie, you can add to that too.
That's correct. So what we usually do is we like to search. We might search, Google will use different search engines just to see what's out there. We actually make contact. So we don't just go by what's on the website or, someone might email us and say, hey, I found this really cool resource. Here you go. And then we just accept it. We like to call. We like to reach out. We like to get more information. We want to make sure that that the number is actually working, right? That it's an active number. So a little bit of back history about me. I worked at the call center, at the mental health call center. I worked there for 4 years. And what I learned along the way was I was getting a lot of those general information questions from individuals that were also calling in for a referral. So I would go ahead and create my own resource list of places. And so in 2020, I had this list, and then COVID just, happened and people closed. So the numbers that I used to have are no longer valid because no one's answering because everyone's now working from home. So I did a lot of like searching, locating correct numbers, emails, and then reaching out to individuals. Oh, that person is no longer here. So it's basically just doing a lot of legwork on our part and just any information from other providers that are reaching out and offering additional resources and information. So a lot of just legwork that we're doing, so researching.
I really appreciate these few questions that have come in so far. They're very much in line with what we're dealing with. We would love to answer additional questions that folks have. I think that we have a little bit of time, so please, share any other questions that y'all have.
Feel free to raise your hand too if you would like to speak, and I can enable the speaker just in case you don't want to type.
Otherwise, what I would also just say is, I don't know where everyone, is connected throughout our area or even, beyond, but I think the program is as successful as, folks knowing about it. So we love to get out there and talk about it with folks. We love to share what it is. It's really not that far removed from the NAMI warm line. I think it's very complementary, that they're sort of two sides of the same coin. And so I think that what we talked about with the NAMI warm line folks is it's really actually a great resource for providers too, or for folks on the NAMI warm line to call over and kind of pick the navigator's brain, like, hey, we're getting this question more often, how are y'all handling it? Or what are you kind of telling people? But whatever, scenario that y'all work within, volunteer within, et cetera, if you think that your colleagues, your networks would benefit from hearing more about the navigator, we would love to present to y'all too. So just know that we're in the phase of the program really wanting to get information about it out. So you can reach out to us for that too.
All right.
Oh, okay, and there's information in the, got it. So there's some in the chat too. I will read these, and then Rosa, if you want to. So did you say without conserving med adhering, required med taking without conserving someone? I think the question is, just trying to get clarification about what like the required medication piece is talking about. And just to clarify, that has nothing to do with the Navigator program. It's, related to a law that I think y'all are probably very familiar with, because it was a very huge deal in Santa Clara County with opinions on both sides, and ultimately it was voted in last year by the Board of Supervisors amongst a lot of controversy on both sides, but ultimately the behavioral health department actually was told they had to implement the program, but it is called assisted outpatient treatment, and so that community members can have immediate access to that team, that's now one of the options on the phone tree too. I don't know if you want to say any more about it, Rosa, but it was just sort of to provide context about the phone tree, and that program is one of is option 3 on the phone tree, and we're option 4.
Yeah. And if you're wanting more information, I mean, they are online for information. So assisted outpatient treatment services, you can actually Google that, it'll come up. Correct.
Yes. And then the next question, how can you help us with private pay for La Selva? Our secondary insurance is private, but not the first. Will that work?
Is the primary insurance Medi-Cal and the secondary is private? So primary would be Medicare. So you'd have to contact La Selva for that. Now, I'll tell you a little bit of background information because I learned that from the call center. Usually when you have a primary insurance, let's say you have Medi-Cal, and then you have a secondary of a private insurance, the way that works is that your secondary then becomes your primary. So if you have Medi-Cal and private, that individual would have to be able to bill that private insurance before they can bill Medi-Cal. And that's why if an individual has Medi-Cal and private insurance, we cannot refer them within the county because our providers are not able to bill that private insurance. So that whatever's left over Medi-Cal will pick up. So with La Selva, if they do accept Medicare, that might be something that, right. So if their primary is Medicare and then they have private insurance and La Selva doesn't accept Medicare, then that would be really hard for them to provide services because they'd have to bill Medicare first and then the private, or vice versa, be able to bill Medicare. But that would be more of a question for La Selva. Yes, we've had individual Medi. And as long as there's no Part C on that Medicare, we do have providers that also accept Medicare only. Thank you for those questions. Really good questions.
Yeah, any other questions, or does anyone want to speak? Just want to ask the question, you can raise your hand. Does it look like there are more questions? Rosa, Alicia, is there any other information you'd like to share?
No, I think that's all of it for now. Just, you know, it'll be great to hopefully that y'all are able to send out the flyer. I'm happy to share the PowerPoint too, you know, out to folks by email and just reach out to us with anything. And I think that's it. Otherwise, we appreciate getting to be here.
Okay, we do have somebody who's raised their hand, Ginny Mitchum. Ginny, you can speak now. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, hello. Okay, I would like to say this was very interesting to hear about the program. And also, I really appreciate the statistics that you showed us. And I know it's hard to keep track of statistics, but it's very, very valuable in being able to say, here's what we've actually done, and here's what we need to do. So thank you. Keep those numbers going, please. Okay.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Okay, Harold Brown wants to speak. Harold, feel free to speak. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So if we have a family member in crisis, is the navigator able to tell us where there are available beds, inpatient beds, you know, in case we have a threatened suicide and we don't want to just be running from one hospital to another? Is there visibility of inpatient beds in the navigator system?
Currently, we do not have, we don't have those statistics. So we wouldn't be able to know who has availability at each inpatient facility. That's a really good question, and something that I don't know if it'll be doable, but I think that's a very good question, something good to know. I'm not sure if that's something that's also able to be tracked with the mobile crisis response team.
Okay. Is it a goal? Is that a goal to have that information?
I couldn't say that that's a goal right now, but actually it's a good point that you bring up. And we're going to really look into that, because that's like I said, it's very good to be able to know how many beds are available if someone was to call us and say, we're trying to get this individual in. If not, then there would have to be if it's not us, then there has to be someone that would be able to provide you with that information. And we want to know who that person is. Where can we get that?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I would just add that ultimately probably the best suited team when someone's in crisis just in general would be the option 1 team, just because they so they're answering phones and they do a majority of their conversations on the phone, but they're also the team that then deploys the in-person mobile response teams. And those are folks that go out and can in person talk with folks. So I would still just really, recommend that team as a good option for 24/7 support, especially because just so I don't know that it was everywhere noted, but the Navigator program right now, it's just the 3 peer support workers. And so they're just answering phone calls during the day, which we know is a snippet of someone's whole day, right? So I just want to plug the 24/7 crisis team too as a resource, since they do some of the other things that we don't.
There is a question in the Q&A section. I can read it out to you guys. Will the navigators provide information on the range of services offered for mental health? A couple of years ago, we tried to get what I learned was full service partnership support, more than a monthly therapist or monthly psychiatry appointment, but did not know to even ask for it.
Actually, that's a really great example of something the navigators can do. I think in the sense of what I've heard the navigators do is explain what all the different types of services in behavioral health are. But what I will say is that behavioral health, just like in the medical system, is all tied, and it's probably going to make y'all cringe when you hear this, but I'm just stating kind of how it works with insurance, is it's all based on, medical necessity, right? So justifying that someone needs X level of care, based on the assessment. And so in a sense, you can't really request a certain level of care. It has to be deemed appropriate to or necessary to what your current situation is. So liken it to you go to the doctor and you say, I really want surgery on my leg. They say, you don't need surgery. You need to wear a splint right now. I don't know if splint's the right word. You need to use crutches. You're like, but I really want surgery. The doctor, is not going to, follow that course of treatment unless they determine it's necessary. I know that's kind of an extreme example, but just to kind of compare, that is how the levels of care in behavioral health work as well, aligned with how Medi-Cal works. And so that can be another reason why it's challenging to, for folks to kind of ask for what they want, because those are the kind of factors that play in. It comes up a lot with substance use treatment services where folks will say, I want to be at a residential program. I need to be inpatient. I need to be there for 30 days overnight. But you actually are not able to be placed based on what you want. It will be based on the assessment of if it's what, based on the criteria you meet medical necessity for. So that's not me giving my opinion. I'm just sharing that that's how an insurance run, behavioral health system works. So just so y'all have a little bit more background on it too, because like you said, without knowing, you don't know, where to start. So I don't know if that was helpful, but I just wanted to share that piece. But Rosa, you can chime in too.
Well, just to piggyback on that, what the navigators can do and have been doing is just letting individuals know that they will have to go through the screening process. And during that screening process, that's when the determination of whether or not the individual meets the requirements or meets the criteria for a higher level of care. And with that higher level of care is that FSP, which is the full service partnership, intensive full service partnership, or even intensive outpatient services. So that is the individuals are being informed of those services, but also they're being informed that it's based off of the criteria and based off of that screening that is conducted at the call center.
And just that it's never kind of like fully, it's always like, there's always like, it's a constant reassessment process, right? So then someone's referred to a provider, they also do an assessment. And then through the course of treatment, there can be recommendation for more support or less support. And the person can absolutely advocate for themselves and, or have, advocates help them advocate. But just know that like there are certain thresholds, but folks should at the same time know all of the options so that they can, talk about it with the provider. So, the behavioral health website is getting better. I want to say I know that it's been not perfect for a long time, but I do think that currently there are better descriptions of the different levels of care. I will double check and look at that, but I know that that's something that has been a work in progress, is trying to have the different levels of care better described on the website.
There's a comment in the chat. It's Kathy Burden says, very helpful to have peers answering these calls. That provides a lot of trust when people are calling in to help. And Diane says, yes, it's hard to advocate for a service if you don't know the service exists. There is another question in the chat, in the Q&A section. It's by Catherine. I filed for Laura's Law for my son, and I have concerns. Number one, I had to educate about 5 police officers about Laura's Law. So I feel that educating the system about the law is needed, and NAMI is obviously the best group to do that. Number two, there are holes to Laura's Law in that if you have a SMI family member, the criteria that is never met also needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and I don't know if the folks from the assisted outpatient treatment team have presented to the NAMI group, but I know that that's a huge piece of what they've been doing too, is trying to connect with groups. So we could absolutely connect y'all with the folks that focus on that. Who does the assessment? They have a team. They have a whole team of clinicians dedicated to this new program. And so I think I want to be really honest that I don't know all the ins and outs because it's its own program, but I think they would be super excited to have a future meeting with y'all. So we can definitely connect you with that team.
Okay, any other questions? All right then. So thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for making the presentation. I think it was very informative and very helpful. And I'm glad that you were able to join us for our general meeting in this evening time, and it's gotten to get so dark these days, it feels very late. So thank you again. And this is our last general meeting for the year, and we will see you, all of you, in January with a new topic. And meanwhile, happy holidays, everyone. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.